My name is Matias Lama, and I'm going to talk about genetic diversity and protective efficacy of RTS-SAS-01 malaria vaccine. The definition of malaria is that malaria is a mosquito-borne infectious disease of humans and other animals caused by parasitic protozoans belonging to the genus Plasmodium. Malaria causes symptoms that typically include fever, fatigue, vomiting, headaches, diarrhea, among others. The RTS-SAS-01 vaccine targets the circumsporocyte protein of Plasmodium falciparum and has partial protective efficacy against clinical and severe malaria disease in infants and children. Now a quick video about what is malaria. Continuing with the exposition. Now, what are the applications in medicine? Malaria induces substantial morbidity and mortality worldwide and has proved to be a challenge for vaccine development efforts. The recently renewed effort to control, eliminate, and hopefully eradicate malaria will have a greater likelihood of success if a vaccine can be combined with other intervention methods such as drug administration campaigns and insect vector control. So if we are able to create this vaccine, we will be able to eradicate malaria worldwide.
What if we could vaccinate a mosquito? Then they wouldn't get infected by malaria-causing parasites, and we wouldn't get malaria. Of course, we can't do that. We're working on a type of vaccine for humans that would stop mosquitoes from spreading malaria. And that means it would protect people too. It's called a transmission-blocking vaccine. Here's how it works. The malaria parasite depends on mosquitoes to carry it from person to person. A mosquito bites a person who has malaria. Now, the mosquito carries the parasite, and once the parasite matures, it can be passed along to the next person the mosquito bites. Every time it bites, malaria spreads. But a transmission-blocking vaccine could transform people from carriers of the malaria parasite to roadblocks. How do we do that? Let's rewind. A mosquito bites a person who has malaria, but this time, the person has been vaccinated. Now, when the mosquito gets the malaria parasites, it also gets the antibodies generated by the vaccine. This interrupts the parasite's life cycle and prevents it from being transmitted to the next person. The vaccine stops malaria-causing parasites from spreading. Now, the rest of the community won't get sick. Like all vaccines, for a transmission-blocking vaccine to work well, we need to vaccinate the entire community. This way, over time, fewer people will carry the parasites, fewer infectious mosquitoes will be buzzing around, and that means fewer people will get malaria. Research and development for these vaccines is still in the early stages, and TBVs are just one type of vaccine we're working on with partners. Used in combination with other tools that block transmission or treat infection, such as bed nets and drugs, a vaccine could help end malaria altogether. But new types of vaccines will require new thinking and funding for research and development. You can help. Share this video with your friends and family, and click here www.malariavaccine.org to donate. Together, we can eradicate malaria.
Continuing, what are the pros and cons of the vaccination? Throughout 1 year after vaccination, the study detected 139 clinical malaria cases with a perfect full amplicon 3D7 match and 1,951 cases that were mismatched. During this period, the cumulative vaccine efficacy against clinical malaria with a perfect full amplicon 3D7 match was 50.3%, and that against mismatched clinical malaria was 33.4%. With vaccine efficacy significantly higher against matched malaria. If we have the opportunity to get the vaccine, we should do it immediately to try eradicate this disease. As we can see, the vaccine acts better in matched patients, but the majority of patients are mismatched. So that's the con. Actually, right now we don't have the vaccine that works for the majority of the patients. So that's why we need more studies to try and get a vaccine that works efficacy in all patients. Another con of the vaccination is what other people think the vaccine could do to your health. Like this video.
Vaccination makes some people uneasy, and it's not just the needle. The alarming claims we've all heard about the dangers of vaccines can make vaccination seem like a big risk to take. But humans' perception of what's risky is notoriously unreliable. We tend to underestimate the risks of everyday hazards and worry too much about suffering some highly unlikely misfortune. In fact, 9% of Americans fear zombies, which don't even exist. So it's not hard to see how lots of scary talk around vaccines can be paralyzing. In reality, the risks posed by vaccines are really small. In fact, because vaccines are preventative measures given to healthy people, they're designed to be safer and have fewer side effects than interventions like medication or surgery, which doctors only resort to if someone is already suffering from a medical condition. After chemotherapy, for example, nasty reactions are almost universal, and 1 of every 2 men who use Viagra experience at least one side effect. Yet the most common side effect of the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, a harmless low-grade fever, occurs in just 1 out of every 6 recipients. Less than 1 in 20 get a minor rash, and super serious reactions are super rare. Less than 1 out of every million recipients suffers a major allergic reaction. In fact, during your lifetime, you're about 3 times more likely to be killed by an errant firework, and 80 times more likely to be struck by lightning than to have a severe reaction to the MMR vaccine. So, when the Center for Disease Control, World Health Organization, or your doctor calls a vaccine safe, they aren't saying bad reactions, they simply mean that its risks are overwhelmingly outweighed by its benefits. Shots for MMR, meningitis, and chickenpox reduce the risk of getting sick by at least 85%. Plus, vaccinating healthy people prevents nasty germs from spreading to those that are too young or weak to get vaccinated themselves. Overall, vaccines have reduced the number of whooping cough cases in the US by 97.5%, slashed the worldwide incidence of polio by more than 99%, and eradicated smallpox. But this success comes with its own side effects. As fewer and fewer people witness or experience the effects of these nasty diseases, it becomes easier to fixate on the risks of vaccines than to recognize their benefits. However, an encounter with illness can help put things into perspective. After a rash of measles spread through 27 US states in 2014 and early 2015, attitudes shifted nationwide. Over a third of Americans polled said they now viewed vaccines more favorably. And where outbreaks were particularly bad, behavior changed too. In hard-hit Clallam County, Washington, vaccination rates quadrupled. Any increase in vaccination rates is great for those that become protected, either directly or through herd immunity, but it doesn't help people who are already sick. It's better to learn before you get sick about how small the risks of vaccinations are compared to the risks of disease, because these guys are what you should really be worried about. Hey, Henry here. I'd like to thank lynda.com for supporting this video. Lynda.com, as you may have heard, is an online learning website with over 3,000...
So, continuing, what are the issues in Ecuador? Malaria is a preventable and treatable disease, yet it continues to kill nearly 1 million people every year worldwide, primarily children under the age of 5. In 2006, there were an estimated 247 million malaria cases among the 3.3 billion people at risk. Globally, 40% of the world's population is at risk. In 2008, there were 109 countries where malaria was widespread, almost half of which are in Africa. In Ecuador, in 2012, the 78.31% of total cases reports of malaria came from Guayas, Esmeraldas, Orellana, y Los Rios, whereas the other 16.30% came from Moreno Santiago, Sucumbíos, Pastaza, and Manabí, with a total number of cases being 558. We see this is a prevalent issue in Ecuador. That's why there has to be control for it. And if there is a vaccine that could prevent the infection, then we will be able to eradicate this sickness in Ecuador.
Over the past 15 years, there has been a dramatic decline in the global burden of malaria. Progress includes a 37% drop in new malaria cases, a 60% drop in malaria deaths, and a 65% drop in deaths among children under 5. 10 countries that had malaria in 2000 are now malaria-free. Nearly 60 countries have reduced their malaria cases by 75% or more. The malaria target of the Millennium Development Goals has been achieved. Progress was made possible through a massive scale-up in effective malaria control tools. Mosquito nets have protected millions from infection, illness, and death. Rapid diagnostic testing has enabled timely and appropriate treatment. And every day, artemisinin-based combination therapies save lives. But our journey is far from over. In 2015 alone, more than 400,000 people died of malaria, and there were 214 million new cases of the disease. Across Africa, 1 in 4 children is still not protected by mosquito nets or indoor residual spraying. And about half of pregnant women at risk